Hi, my name is Jessica Rosenstrau, and this is Mod 7 Internal External Publics for EDL 856. So I did my chart on my old school, Bear Creek Elementary in Colorado in the Lewis Palmer School District. And I used Creately to make my chart. As you can see it right here, and I'll zoom in as we get started. I decided to use Creately because I've used it before, so I was a little more familiar with it, and then I just uploaded it into the Google Slides here for this presentation. I thought it was a little difficult. I have a trouble when we create these charts. I've had to do it in other classes, and it always takes me so I spend so much time creating the charts. It's I spend more time creating them um, than I do with all the information. So I find it a very difficult thing to use. Um, so when looking at my internal and external publics, I did my internal publics is basically anyone that works for the school in the school district as well as our students. So I included that on this side, and then the external publics are anybody that um, can be part of that has a connection to the internal publics. So that's kind of how I broke them apart. And I looked at it when I started doing this. I wanted to put show the different links. So like the Board of Education, make, who are they connected to? And what I found out was it was just a hodgepodge of all these crazy lines. So I thought when I presented this that I'll just talk about how they're all connected. So looking at, oh, sorry. Looking at this, so I started with internal publics. I started with the Board of Education or our school board. And really the way they communicate, you can see the arrows going down the line. They communicate to all of the people below them, but they also communicate to the community. So to our parents, local businesses, community members, law enforcement, and potential employees. They really are connected to all of these external publics as well as all of the internal publics within the school. They communicate mostly through oral and digital communication. They come to, so to start with, the school board meets once a month, and during non-COVID times, they have live school board meetings that they publicize as they're in progress. Now, due to COVID, of course, they're all remote, and they do it through Google Meets or Zoom. In all of these meetings, whether before COVID or now during COVID, they're all recorded on our district website, so anyone can access those at any time. So that's one way that they communicate. They also are very involved in coming to the schools during staff meetings. So at least every other month, you'll have a school board member attend one of our staff meetings to just kind of talk about the happenings of the district as well as to getting any feedback from the staff. So that's another, so that's their oral. And then digital, they have their website, which they keep up and running, where you have can find out any information. They're very big on being transparent with everyone, and so you can find most of the questions you could have, whether you're a parent, a local business, a community member, or even someone that works in the school district. You can usually find that information on the district webpage. And then they also, you can reach any of the school board members through their email accounts. So that is how they communicate to all parties. Then we have our superintendent, Casey Summers. He, again, is very involved within our district as well as all the external publics. So if you were to think about it, he connects with the parents, the local businesses, community members, law enforcement, and not really potential employees, though you can find information about him and what he believes in and stands for on his on the district webpage under his tab. So he communicates orally, coming to meetings, showing up to different community events. He's also on social media, and then and then digitally, you can also get him through email. Right now, I just interviewed him for another class this past fall, and he was great. We got on and did a Google Meets together and had a great conversation. So he's very outgoing and very involved with everybody. Then you have the administrators, and I just put ours at Bear Creek, Peggy Parsley, our principal. So she communicates daily through emails to our staff, to the teachers in the staff and the students. She emails all of us. She works, she has informal conversations with us all. She stops and talks to the kids in person. She's very involved with our parents. So again, you could put her connecting with the parents. She's very good about making phone calls. If the parent stops in, trying to find the time to meet with those parents. Emailing, she's very good about emailing everybody right back. And then local businesses and community members, she, as well as the law enforcement and the potential employees. I know myself included, when I was looking at this district to come as a potential employee, I came to the school and did a tour with our assistant principal and met with her briefly. And so she's just very involved and communicates with all external as well as teachers and staff and students, as well as going up this with Mr. Summers and the Board of Education. She's involved with all of them. Then internal, you have your teachers. So, we communicate internally with all parties via email or personal conversations. Looking up, we have, informal conversations with Peggy. You can have a conversation with her almost daily. Casey Summers or the school board, that's through email. And then parents, that's a constant. We have, our school is required to do weekly newsletters. So you communicate weekly with your parents through that. And then, and that's really kind of the external where teachers are, is with the parents. And I broke the parents down to volunteers and PTO. And that is another way, whether they're parents or a local community member that's volunteering. Teachers really work with parents, PTO, and volunteers as well. Same with the staff. When I look at this, staff is oral conversations and email. Communicate with the parents, the volunteers, the PTO through emails and conversations when they come into the building. There's some written paperwork that will go home, but most of our flyers now are done through Peachjar, the electronic way to send home papers. So the staff really, it's it's two-way. They talk to the parents, volunteers, local businesses, community members, and things like that. And it's a two-way conversation between the external and in the internal that happens. And finally, on the internal, I placed our students. And so, of course, they have oral conversations with one another and staff, teachers, and even the administrators in our building. We're very big on emailing. And so the kids do a lot of emailing to their teachers when they have questions and things like that. We work digitally with Google Classroom format. And so that's how they submit their work and everything. And then, of course, they communicate with their parents. So that would be another way external that people are, the external public is getting information about what's happening within our schools. Looking over here at the external, of course, you have your parents, and that is a two-way communication. They can communicate with the Board of Education, Mr. Summers, of course, our principal, teachers, and staff. So they definitely do communicate two ways in oral, written, and digital communication. And they also voice any concerns or issues with any of the internal publics, depending on where that where their concern falls. Then I broke down, we have a huge volunteer community in our school, but it's really mostly parents. We occasionally will get a community member, but most of them are parents. And again, it's oral, written, and digital communication. PTO is the same way. It's a two-way communication, and they work very closely, the PTO, is very strong in our building, and they work very closely with Mrs. Parsley on any fundraising as handled through the PTO. Mrs. Parsley will approve the fundraisers, but the PTO handles all the fundraising that happens. So they definitely work very closely with the administrators, the teachers, the staff, finding out what we are in need of and making sure it happens. Local businesses, they get their information either orally or digitally communication through parents, the district websites, and social media. They're also asked often to fundraise through the PTO, so you could connect the PTO with the local business as well. Community members, I made community members. It was people that do not have children at the school. So they live in the neighborhood, but they do not have children attending Bear Creek at that particular moment, whether their children are already out of the house or they haven't had kids yet. So they get their information about our school through the district and school websites, community news, social school board meetings, and social media groups. Then you have your law enforcement is another external public. They that's again a two-way oral and written communication, and they also work with our SROs in the buildings. They communicate mostly with the Board of Education, the superintendent, the district, and the administrators, and they do this through phone calls and emails. And then potential employees was the last group that I included in my external publics. And that, again, is a two-way oral, written, and digital communication. They can learn about our district through the district websites. They can contact any of the internal publics over here and have conversations with them. Like I said, they can also come and do walkthroughs through the buildings and meet with the administrators and just get a sense of what the district is and what it represents and stands for before they apply. And then all the applications are done completely online. And then down here at the bottom, I included the social media. The social media over here, I'm sorry, it keeps popping up. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and these over here, that's our different ways that you can find us on social media. So looking at this, thinking about the strengths, I really think the teachers and administrators in our building work very closely with our parents. We have a great communication system between teachers and parents. And that's strengthened because of our administrators and their and the way the tone they set for the building. So I really think that we have excellent communication between the two publics here. And a weakness that I would say is definitely, I think it's the Board of Education to the community members. I had said it in one of my other assignments for this class that we have been trying for the last several years to build a new elementary school. We are at max capacity in many of the schools, especially our middle school. We only have one middle school and it is overflowing, as well as our school, Bear Creek, is very full. And so we really need to, as a community, come together and pass the bond for a new elementary school and then convert Bear Creek back to its original what it was originally intended for, which was a middle school. And so there is a lot of distrust and it's just a lot of distrust between the community and this Board of Education, and unfortunately. And so I think that is definitely something that, as internally looking at all of these publics, we really need to work on building the communication between the community members and the Board of Education and strengthen that in order to get this bond passed and build up perhaps more volunteer efforts from our community in that. So that is my chart for internal and external publics. And I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.